My boyfriend started flirting with some girls at the club, even though I was literally standing next to him. He didn't realize I heard him, but when we got home I confronted him with screenshots of his secret Instagram profile I'd just discovered from my friend's phone. Turns out he wasn't just acting single at the club. Our first-year anniversary is in 2 weeks. We went out last night to a birthday party of our mutual friend. He got pretty tipsy but not wasted. I didn't drink since I was driving us home. At some point in the night I went to go get water, and when I came back, there were a bunch of people in the room, so I was standing directly behind him trying to get through. He was talking to some girl and I heard her ask, "So is that girl you came in with your girlfriend?" And he distinctly said, after some hesitation, "No, she's just my roommate, haha." I got really pissed off but didn't say anything, just came up to stand next to him. I didn't want to make a scene at my friend's birthday party, but he was going to get an earful when we left. He didn't even notice me for a few seconds and said something like, "You're so pretty," to the other girl. She noticed me glaring at him and left. For context, this wasn't just some random party. This was the birthday celebration of my friend who introduced us a year ago. Everyone there knew we were a couple. We'd even talked about possibly getting engaged after I finish college next year. We'd spent an entire weekend browsing rings online, and he knew exactly what style I wanted. He met my parents for the first time just 2 months into our relationship and charmed them completely. My dad, who's usually wary of my boyfriends, actually pulled me aside to tell me, "This one's a keeper." I spent Christmas with his family, where his mom gave me her grandmother's recipe book because I was going to be part of the family soon. We moved in together after just 5 months because, as he put it, "I can't stand being away from you even for a night." We share expenses, a Netflix account, even a joint savings account for our future. For months, we've been planning a trip to Bali for our anniversary. I picked up extra weekend shifts to help pay for it, and he promised it would be the most special trip of our lives. He even gave me a promise ring 6 months ago, a beautiful opal surrounded by tiny diamonds, and I joked that he was practicing for the real proposal. I haven't taken it off since, and was wearing it at the party when he called me his roommate. I was so pissed off at him that I just decided to walk away and talk to my friends the rest of the night. Probably a mistake of not addressing it right there at the time, but I wanted to avoid a big scene if I could. I tried to enjoy myself. My friend, the host of the party, came up to me and asked me if my boyfriend and I had broken up. "What do you mean?" I asked her, feeling my stomach drop. "Well," she lowered her voice, "I overheard him telling Megan that he's been single for months. He said he's been enjoying the freedom of bachelor life. I thought maybe you guys had broken up and were just being civil about it at my party." Megan. The name struck a chord. She was a girl I'd seen commenting heart emojis on his Instagram posts before. When I'd asked about her, he said she was just a friend from his gym class. Nothing to worry about. After that, I just decided to go home. I was really mad. He could find a ride or crash at our friend's place. She said it would be okay because tons of people were crashing in the living room already. I went home without saying a word to him. This morning I woke up to all of these texts and calls from him, really pissed that I ditched him at the party without a ride or without warning. He demanded to know in an accusing voice where I had disappeared off to, as if I was the one up to some shady stuff. The audacity of this man was truly unbelievable. He was upset with me. I'm just angry and confused because this is coming out of nowhere for me. We have a great relationship and have never had a fight. He tells me all the time that he's so happy we're together and that I'm the best thing that ever happened to him and that he wants to be with me forever. And now pretending I'm not his girlfriend, claiming he's single, flirting with other girls right in front of me. He has never done anything like that before and hasn't even looked at other girls. Or at least, that's what I thought until last night. Now I'm starting to question everything. Was I just blind this whole time? Were there signs I missed? Just last week he was talking about where we might live after I graduate, and now he's acting like I'm some random roommate he barely knows? It makes no sense. I don't drink, so is this just dumb, drunken behavior that I should excuse? Should I give him a chance to explain himself or just end things now? I'm so pissed off and feel so disrespected. I can't even think of what reason he could give that would somehow make what he did okay in my eyes, but I'm willing to listen to anyone's perspective or other angles on the situation. Update 1. Same day. I texted him, "You made it clear to me last night that you are single. I don't wait around for ex-boyfriends to give them rides home. Don't bother coming back here," as one commenter suggested. He immediately tried to call me and I didn't pick up. Then he texted asking what I'm talking about. How could he not know? My friend, the host, even just texted me and told him she'd given him an earful all morning when he woke up for being such a jerk to me. He denied everything and said he has no idea what she's talking about. They got into a fight about it because he stuck to his guns and claims he never said any of that stuff. I have a feeling he's going to pretend he doesn't remember or blacked out as a way to get out of this. He said he's getting a ride back to my place now. I'm considering not answering the door, but what if he really doesn't remember? I kind of don't care though. He's coming here now. What do I do? After I sent that text, my phone exploded with notifications finally ending with the classic, "We need to talk" message. My friend Jess called me immediately after I texted her about what happened. "Girl, I'm not surprised at all," she said, which caught me off guard. When I asked what she meant, she hesitated before saying, "I didn't want to tell you this before because I didn't have proof, but I've seen him acting shady at least twice when you weren't around." According to Jess, she spotted him at a bar downtown about a month ago with his arm around some blonde girl. When she approached them, he looked startled and quickly introduced the girl as his cousin visiting from out of town. Jess said the girl looked confused by this introduction. He then hurriedly said they had to leave and practically dragged the girl out of the bar. "I was going to tell you," Jess said, "but when I brought it up to him the next day, he swore it really was his cousin and begged me not to cause drama over nothing. He seemed so sincere that I second-guessed myself. I'm so sorry I didn't tell you sooner. I feel like my whole world is crashing down around me. A year of my life wasted on someone who could so easily disrespect me. Update 2. Later that same day. He's almost here. My friend convinced me to talk to him just to hear the complete load of crap he's going to unleash on you. Dump him, girl, I would. And she's known him for longer than she's known me. While waiting for him to arrive, I decided to distract myself by checking Instagram. That's when I noticed something strange. He hadn't appeared in my feed for weeks. When I searched for his profile, I discovered he had me on a restricted list where I could only see certain posts. I texted my friend Kara to send me screenshots of his profile from her account. What I saw broke me all over again. For the past 3 months, he's been commenting things like looking gorgeous and when am I seeing you again on dozens of different girls' photos. There were even exchanges where they moved to DMs, but it gets worse. The screenshots Kara sent showed that the restricted version of his profile I could see had only 8 posts from the past year. His actual profile had 47 posts in that same time frame. The posts hidden from me, pictures of him at clubs, bars, and parties I knew nothing about. In several of them, he had his arm around different women, no mention of having a girlfriend anywhere. The worst part? I found check-ins at the rooftop bar downtown with Megan on 3 separate nights when he told me he was staying in to catch up on work or was too exhausted to go out. On those same nights, I was sitting at home alone, texting him supportive messages about how hard he was working. I'd been cooking him meals and dropping them off because I thought he was too busy to eat properly. One particular post made me physically sick. 3 weeks ago, on a night he claimed he was pulling an all-nighter at the library for finals. He posted a picture at a club with the caption, "Single Life," and Megan had commented, "Thanks for an unforgettable night," which he had liked and replied to with, "Plenty more where that came from." Kara called me immediately after sending the screenshots. "I had no idea," she said, sounding shocked. "I don't follow him closely, so I never noticed these posts until you asked me to check. This is beyond messed up, girl." My hands were shaking so badly I could barely hold the phone. All those nights I thought he was studying or working late. All those times I'd surprised him with coffee or snacks to help him through his stressful workload. It was all a lie so he could live a double life. Just as I was trying to process this bombshell, my doorbell rang. I nearly jumped out of my skin. My phone showed 3 missed calls from him in the last 5 minutes, and now there was an insistent knocking. He was here, and from the sound of it, he wasn't planning to leave until I opened the door. I stood frozen in the middle of our living room. Correction, my living room now. With the screenshots still open on my phone, feeling like I was about to face a stranger wearing my boyfriend's face. The person I thought I knew couldn't possibly be the same one who had created this elaborate web of lies. How do you even begin a conversation with someone who's been systematically deceiving you for months? My hands were trembling, and I felt physically ill. Update 3, same day evening. The moment he walked in, he tried to hug me. I stepped back and showed him my phone with the Instagram screenshots. His face went pale. "It's not what it looks like," he stammered. "Really?" I said, scrolling through the images. "Because it looks like you've been living a completely separate life behind my back for months." He claimed that his account must have been hacked. When I pointed out that there were pictures of him that had clearly been taken recently, he changed his story. He said it was all for show to impress his friends who gave him a hard time about settling down so young. "You expect me to believe you created a fake single life online just to impress your friends?" I asked incredulously. "You don't understand the pressure guys face," he said, looking desperate. "My friends kept saying I was missing out on the best years of my life by being tied down. So instead of standing up for our relationship, you decided to pretend it didn't exist?" I could feel my voice rising. Just then, my phone dinged with a message from Tyler, another friend who was at the party. He finally worked up the courage to tell me what he'd overheard in the kitchen when my boyfriend was with his friends. One of them asked, "So, how are things going with my name?" And my boyfriend rolled his eyes and said, "It's whatever, man. She thinks we're serious, but I never actually agreed to that. I'm just keeping my options open until something better comes along." Tyler said he heard my boyfriend laugh and say, "The arrangement works for now. She pays half the rent, cooks most nights, and doesn't question me when I need my space. It's convenient." When Tyler asked if I knew he felt this way, my boyfriend just shrugged and said, "What she doesn't know won't hurt her. Besides, we never officially said we were exclusive." Then they all laughed and clinked their beer bottles. I showed him the message and he looked like he was going to be sick. "Tyler's lying," he said weakly. "He's always had a thing for you. Tyler has a girlfriend," I reminded him, "and he's been your friend for years." His excuses were getting more desperate by the minute. I was drunk. I didn't mean any of it. I was just trying to sound cool in front of the guys. While he was desperately trying to explain away Tyler's message, I remembered something else. This morning while cleaning, I'd found a small gold hoop earring with a pearl between our couch cushions. It definitely wasn't mine. I only wear silver jewelry. I walked to my bedroom and came back with the earring. "Is this Megan's?" I asked, holding it up. His face went through a series of emotions: shock, panic, and then an attempt at casual dismissal. "That's not hers," he said too quickly. "That must be from before we moved in. We bought this couch together," I reminded him. 3 months after moving in. Remember the weekend trip to IKEA? You complained about the price, but I insisted it was worth it because we'd have it for years. "Oh," he faltered. "Then it must be my cousin Alexis's from when she visited last month." "Your cousin Alexis?" I repeated slowly. "Funny, in our entire year together, you've never once mentioned having a cousin named Alexis." He started to stammer about how she's his second cousin and doesn't come around much, but I wasn't listening anymore. I walked to my laptop and pulled up the footage from our doorbell camera. I'd installed it after a package had been stolen from our building's lobby. "Is this Alexis?" I asked, turning the screen toward him. The footage clearly showed a woman I didn't recognize entering our apartment at 2:30 p.m. last Tuesday, a day he told me he'd be working from home alone because he needed to focus. The woman looked an awful lot like the Megan from his Instagram photos. photos. He stared at the screen in horror, then back at me. "I can explain," he said, but nothing followed. "I'm waiting," I said, crossing my arms. Final update, next day. I know most of you will be disappointed to hear this, but I decided to give him another chance. Just kidding. I only kid because I'm still bawling my eyes out. My eyes are so puffy this morning I could barely see to type this update. I've gone through an entire box of tissues, and my dog hasn't left my side all night, sensing something is deeply wrong. I hate that I'm still crying over someone who clearly thought so little of me, but I suppose that's what happens when you love someone. The pain doesn't immediately vanish just because you've discovered they're not who you thought they were. I did decide to answer the door and hear what he had to say, if only to try to understand his reasons behind it, not as a way to forgive him but to fully understand why. After reading hundreds of your comments urging me to get closure but stay strong, I decided it would help me move on if I could make sense of how someone I trusted so completely could betray me so thoroughly. I needed answers, not for reconciliation, but for my own healing process. After confronting him with the Instagram posts, Tyler's message, and the doorbell camera footage, he finally broke down. The story that came out was both pathetic and infuriating. At first he denied it and said that none of it ever happened, and that my friend was lying to me because she was jealous of us and had always wanted him. She has a boyfriend of 3 years. He said he had no idea what she was talking about or why I was so mad at him. I just said, "I heard you say it too." He said, "Say what?" But then he just saw the look on my face and crumbled. He said that prior to us dating, he had never gotten attention from girls before, and it went to his head when it happened last night. He said that he'd always felt in disbelief because he believed I was out of his league and it was pure fluke that I'd ever been interested in him. Apparently, girls never approached him before we were dating, ever. So when it happened at the party, he didn't know how to react. According to him, once we started dating, he suddenly started getting attention from other women. He claimed it was because having a girlfriend made him seem more desirable or pre-approved. At first, he said he would politely mention he was in a relationship, but then some of his friends started teasing him about being whipped. As he was talking, I walked to our shared desk and opened his laptop. He had stupidly left his email logged in. "What are you doing?" he asked nervously. "Just checking something," I said, searching for Bali in his inbox. What I found made my blood run cold. There it was, a reservation confirmation for the same resort we had been planning to visit for our anniversary, except this booking was for 2 nights before our planned dates, and the reservation clearly listed Mr. his name and Ms. Megan, last name. "You're taking her to Bali?" I whispered. "Using the money we saved together?" His face went white. "I can explain." I kept searching and found an email draft scheduled to be sent to me the week before our planned departure date. The subject line read, "Bad news about our trip," and the message explained how a work emergency meant we would need to postpone our anniversary celebration. In another email to Megan, he wrote, "So excited for our getaway. My roommate thinks I'm going the following week for a work conference, so we'll have the perfect cover. I've been saving for months. Private villa, ocean view, the works. You deserve to be spoiled." The work conference he mentioned was supposed to be our anniversary trip, the trip I'd picked up extra shifts for months to help save for. The trip he claimed was going to be the most romantic week of our lives, and he was planning to take another woman instead, using our joint savings, while leaving me with a fake excuse. "It started small," he admitted. "I'd just not mention you right away when talking to a girl at a bar. Then it became easier to just not correct people when they assumed I was single. Before I knew it, I was actively hiding our relationship." "And Megan?" I asked, holding up the earring. He looked at the floor. "Nothing serious happened," he mumbled. "Define nothing serious," I demanded. After more evasion, the truth finally came out. He'd been seeing Megan for the past 2 months. They hadn't slept together, he insisted, as if that made it better, but they had fooled around a few times, including on our couch last Tuesday. "It meant nothing," he kept saying. "It was just physical. I love you." When I asked why he'd restricted me on Instagram and created a whole separate social media presence, he said he enjoyed the attention and the rush of having these girls interested in him. Just then, his phone lit up with a notification. I caught a glimpse of his mother's name and the message preview, "Did you move the Megan pics from the family album before my name sees them?" "What was that?" I asked, my voice hollow. He lunged for his phone, but I was faster. When I opened the message, I felt like I'd been punched in the stomach. The full text read, "Did you move the Megan pics from the family album before my name sees them? Also, she's still confirmed for Sunday dinner with us, right? Your father's making that pasta she likes. Your mother knows about Megan," I whispered, scrolling through their conversation history. Message after message revealed his family's complete awareness of his double life. There were texts coordinating when I would be out of the picture so Megan could attend family functions. Messages from his sister saying, "Almost slipped and mentioned Megan when my name was over yesterday. Be more careful about which girl you're bringing to what event." The worst was a message from his mother from 2 months ago. "I like my name, but Megan might be better for you long term. She seems more ambitious, and your father loves her." I felt physically ill. "Your entire family has been helping you cheat on me?" "It's not like that," he stammered. They met her at a family thing when you couldn't make it, and they didn't want to cause problems." "When I couldn't make it," I repeated slowly. "You mean when I was working double shifts to save for our anniversary trip?" He couldn't meet my eyes. "That weekend I had to work and missed your family barbecue. You brought her instead, and they've been in on this the whole time?" "My mom just wants me to be happy," he said weakly. I thought about Christmas with his family, how his sister had taken me aside for an hour-long conversation about her job while he had stepped out to help his dad with something. Had he been calling Megan then? I remembered his mother hugging me goodbye, telling me how lovely it was to finally have a daughter, all while knowing he was seeing someone else. "And what exactly did you think would happen?" I asked. "Were you planning to keep this double life going forever, or were you waiting for someone better to come along, like you told told your friends." He broke down crying, claiming he never meant to hurt me. He said he enjoyed the attention and just went with it. According to him, he wasn't planning on doing anything but just impulsively said whatever to keep the attention coming. He swears up and down that he just enjoyed the ego boost that came from girls being interested in him, but he would never ever cheat on me. In his mind, he thought it was harmless because he knew he would never let it go further than feeding his ego, and that if he'd known that I would hear, he never would have done it and risked hurting me. "So you consider fooling around with Megan on our couch harmless?" I asked incredulously. "That was a mistake," he admitted. "I got carried away. It'll never happen again." At this point, I started to cry, because to me it was such a stupid reason to throw away what we had. I know some of you will say that I should forgive him. Got a lot of PMs and comments saying it was just a dumb mistake, and I say dumb stuff I don't mean when I'm drunk too, but I just can't. He broke my trust in him, and honestly, he hurt my pride. I want a guy who can handle when some other girl shows interest in him with maturity and respect. A guy who loves me so much that he would never dream of leading a girl on for attention because I feel like my attention should be enough. Someone who's proud to point at me and say, "Sorry, I'm taken, and she's a great girl," with no regrets. The worst part was realizing how much energy and love I'd put into someone who valued me so little. All those nights I'd stayed up late helping him study for exams, the care packages I'd made when he was sick, the birthday gift I'd been saving for months to buy him, a limited edition watch from his favorite brand that cost me nearly a month's worth of tips from my waitressing job, all for someone who could casually dismiss our relationship as convenient. I told him that I thought it was a really stupid reason to damage our relationship, being insecure and an attention seeker, and I guess it must have sunk in that I was planning to leave him. He broke down crying and begged me to please try to forgive him because it was a stupid drunken mistake. It was so hard to stay strong, but I was very angry with him. I cried so hard because he started telling me he loved me more than anyone and he was just stupid, drunk, and inexperienced, and he wished he could take it all back because it wasn't worth losing me. "It wasn't just a drunken mistake," I said coldly. "It was a series of calculated decisions you made every day for months. You restricted me on Instagram. You created a whole separate life online. You brought another woman into our home when you thought I wouldn't find out. You lied to my face countless times about where you were and who you were with." I said I was glad he realized his mistake, but if he really loved me more than anyone, then he really needed a better way to show it than pretending I don't exist to other pretty girls. He got hysterical and just started saying, I'm sorry, I can't lose you, please forgive me." As he continued to sob and beg, I felt a strange calm come over me. This wasn't love. I deserved better than this. I told him that I thought his actions last night were honestly pathetic and disgusting, and they changed my view of him. I told him it was sad that he would throw himself after a girl and lie just to get a few minutes of attention, and that I didn't think it was a good excuse to say, "That never happened to me before, so I didn't know how to handle," or "I was just innocently enjoying the attention. What would happen next time?" How could I trust him to act appropriately and control himself? He said that he'd learn from this, and he'd do better next time, but honestly, I just couldn't get over it. He made me feel worthless as his girlfriend and something he had to hide to get the attention of other women because my attention wasn't adequate. I know that isn't necessarily true, but that's just how he made me feel. I also told him he'd lowered himself in my eyes and I didn't respect him anymore. "You've broken something that can't be fixed," I told him quietly. "Every time you look at your phone, I'll wonder who you're messaging. Every time you say you're working late, I'll wonder if you're with someone else. I can't live like that." He started promising therapy, couples counseling, giving me access to all his accounts, anything to make it right, but the trust was gone. And without trust, what did we really have? So I told him to get out and not talk to me anymore. I'm leaving a box of his stuff on the porch so he can get it without talking to me. Then I laid on my couch and cried with my dog until I felt sick. It shouldn't feel this crappy because I'm still really mad at him. But we had an amazing year together, and it sucks that something so small and stupid could cause him to jeopardize that. I don't want to be with a guy who values our relationship so little. As he was leaving, he turned at the door with tears streaming down his face. "You're making a huge mistake," he said. "No one will ever love you like I do." I couldn't help but laugh bitterly. "That's what I'm counting on," I replied, and closed the door. Update 5, 2 days later. I feel better today, though I'm still riding waves of emotion. One minute I'm relieved to be free of his lies, the next I'm angry enough to want to burn all his possessions, and then suddenly I'll find myself crying over a stupid inside joke or a song that reminds me of him. Grief isn't linear, I guess. My roommate from college drove 2 hours to stay with me after reading my post. Hi Sarah, if you're reading this update too. Having her here has been a lifeline. She's made sure I'm eating, helped me change the locks, and sat with me through some seriously ugly cry sessions. It sucks not being in a relationship anymore, especially one I thought was heading toward marriage, but I feel like I deserve better. I know I deserve better. He's been blowing up my phone nonstop. 47 texts and 18 missed calls in the last 24 hours. The messages swing wildly between apologetic, "I'm so sorry, I'll do anything to fix this," manipulative, "You're throwing away a year over one mistake," self-pitying, "I've been home crying all day, I can't eat, I can't sleep," and angry, "If you were a better girlfriend, maybe I wouldn't have looked elsewhere." The last one really confirmed I'm making the right decision. I'm just waiting for him to pick up his stuff so I can block his number. I've packed everything into garbage bags and left them in the building's storage room so I don't have to see him. The property manager is aware of the situation and will let him in to get his things. Sarah and I will be out getting coffee when he comes, as I can't trust myself not to either scream at him or worse, break down in front of him. Last night, I got a text from Megan. Yes, that Megan. She apologized profusely, saying she had no idea he was in a relationship. According to her, he'd told her he was single and had been pursuing her aggressively for months. She even forwarded me some of their messages, where he explicitly told her he was just living with a platonic platonic roommate to save on rent. She was horrified when she found out the truth from mutual friends and wanted me to know she would have never gone near him if she'd known about me. I feel sick about this, she wrote. Girl code means something to me, and I would never knowingly help a guy cheat. I'm so sorry for the pain he's caused you. Strangely, her message made me feel a little better. At least I wasn't the only one he had deceived. We're actually meeting for coffee tomorrow. Misery loves company, I guess, and it might be therapeutic to compare notes on his lies. Meanwhile, several friends who had seen my now ex at various bars and clubs over the past few months have come forward with stories. Apparently, his single man act was well known in certain circles. One friend's boyfriend even confronted him about it once, and he laughed it off, saying we had an understanding and an open relationship. The most humiliating revelation came yesterday when Tyler sent me screenshots from a group chat with my ex and several of his friends. The chat was titled Rankings and contained months of messages where they systematically compared and rated the women they were seeing. My ex had been actively participating in these rankings, sharing detailed comparisons between me, Megan, and several other women. Some were about appearance. Megan's body, 9 out of 10, my name's body, 6 out of 10, but she's trying, bless her, while others violated intimate boundaries in ways that made me physically ill to read. When one friend asked him why he was keeping me around if he was so into these other women, his response made me want to scream. The only thing my name has over these other girls is that she cooks better and pays half my rent, lol. Plus, she's so busy with school she doesn't notice when I go MIA for days. Perfect setup. There were screenshots where he shared private insecurities I had confided in him during vulnerable moments. Things about my body I was self-conscious about, family traumas I had trusted him with, all used as material for their cruel entertainment. In one particularly hurtful exchange, he had shared details about my parents' messy divorce and my resulting trust issues. That's why she's so easy to manipulate, he had written. Just tell her you'd never hurt her like her dad hurt her mom, and she'll believe literally anything. I had told him about my parents' situation during a night when I'd cried in his arms, feeling safe enough to share my deepest fears. To see it weaponized this way made me physically ill. In one particularly vicious thread, he'd shared an unflattering photo of me sleeping. I didn't even know he'd taken it, next to a glamour shot of Megan with the caption, "The expectation versus the reality of my life. Hashtag, which would you choose?" His friends had all responded with laughing emojis and crude comments. One wrote, "Bro, the fact that you're juggling all these girls and none of them know about each other makes you the GOAT." And my ex had replied, "The secret is finding a main girl who's too insecure to question anything. My name thinks she hit the jackpot with me, so she overlooks all the red flags. Meanwhile, I get to have my fun on the side." To think I had cried real tears over this man. To think I had ever worried about being good enough for him. The level of deception is staggering. It's like I was dating a stranger. My best friend also just broke up with his girlfriend of 2 years, so we're planning a road trip together to take our mind off things. I wasn't able to go before because I didn't want to make my boyfriend uncomfortable. Go figure. But this weekend, I'm going to go hang out with my bestie and swim at the beach and forget things. Thanks for the support. You helped me stay clear-headed. I have a lot of hate and bitterness in my heart right now, but I'm hoping that will pass. Update 6. 1 week later. Quick update because so many of you have been checking in. I'm doing better than expected. The road trip with my best friend was exactly what I needed. 3 days of loud music, junk food, and conversations that had nothing to do with my ex. We drove to the coast, slept in the car under the stars, and I laughed for the first time in what felt like forever. It's amazing how healing it is to be around someone who genuinely values you. When I got back, I found out through mutual friends that my ex has been telling everyone who will listen that I overreacted and that he didn't technically cheat because there was no sex involved. He's been playing the victim, saying I threw away a year-long relationship over a few harmless messages. Funny how he's leaving out the part about creating a whole separate life and bringing another woman into our home. His audacity knows no bounds. According to our mutual friend Ryan, he's been making me sound like the villain, claiming I went through his phone illegally, that I was always paranoid and controlling, and that he was walking on eggshells throughout our relationship. The same relationship where I trusted him completely and never once questioned his late nights until I literally heard him deny my existence with my own ears. The coffee with Megan was surprisingly healing. She brought screenshots of all their conversations, and we pieced together an extensive timeline of his lies. It turns out he was pursuing at least 3 women simultaneously while with me. The messages were nauseating to read. He used the same pet names for her that he used for me, took her to restaurants we had discussed wanting to try together, and even bought her a necklace for her birthday that was suspiciously similar to one I had pointed out in a store window months earlier. The most revealing part was seeing how he described me to her. In one message, when she asked about his living situation, he wrote, "My roommate is just someone I knew from college. We're on completely different schedules, so we barely see each other. Just a convenient arrangement to save money." This was during a week when I had cooked dinner for him every night, and we had binged an entire season of our favorite show together. Megan and I ended up spending over 3 hours talking and actually hit it off. We're going to a concert together next weekend. Silver linings, I guess. She's actually really cool and was just as deceived as I was. We've joked about starting a support group for all the women he's lied to. I've started therapy to work through my trust issues from this relationship. My therapist says it's completely normal to question my judgment after being deceived for so long. She's helping me recognize that his behavior says everything about him and nothing about my worth. In our last session, we talked about how skilled manipulators can make you doubt your own reality, how they present such a convincing facade that when the truth comes out, you question yourself rather than them. Why didn't I see the signs? Instead of, how could he be so deceitful? Oh, and remember that promise ring he gave me? I found out from Megan that it wasn't even new. He had bought it for his ex-girlfriend before me, but she had returned it when they broke up. I pawned it yesterday and am using the money to buy concert tickets, reclaiming my joy one small step at a time. For those asking if I'll ever take him back, absolutely not. Some bridges, once burned, can never be rebuilt. His mother actually called me 2 days ago, saying her son was devastated and that young men make mistakes. I reminded her that I had seen her texts encouraging him to choose Megan over me, and she hung up immediately. The entire family is just as toxic as he is. I deserve someone who's proud to be with me, not someone who sees me as a convenient arrangement until something better comes along. I deserve someone who brings the same energy to the relationship that I do, who wouldn't dream of disrespecting me to impress their friends, who values loyalty and honesty as much as I do. Thank you all for your support through this mess. I've been reading every comment and taking strength from your words. So many of you shared similar stories and how you came out stronger on the other side. It's been a crash course in self-respect that I never wanted but desperately needed. Onwards and upwards from here.